of if the WSA has a formal risk management process.
I know they do not. Not only because I've been on the council, but also because I worked for the insurance agency that handled the town's claims. And I had attended risk management meetings, and they did not have a risk management program.
Thank you. Looking back where you were involved in the process, would you have done anything differently?
So many things that I don't even know if I can remember them all. I think in the very beginning, if I had understood the amount of money that we were holding back and how it would accumulate, I would have done whatever I could to influence the board of the water and sewer board to pay the upfront, the appropriate costs, and find out more after the fact. I frankly never knew how much was being held back. I don't recall that we were told that. I probably should have asked, but I didn't. So I really didn't get a handle on how bad it was until we received the lawsuit and we saw the number. That would be one thing. I think one thing that would have been very important, had we been able, was to change the venue of the lawsuit. Having Waterbury judges make choices on a lawsuit that involved the city, to me just never seemed appropriate or fair. But the council that we had that was handling it for us, and I don't mean our local people, I mean the attorneys from Waterbury, they didn't seem to have a problem with that. So obviously I wasn't going to tell them how to do the job. I think there's a lot of things we could have done that would have changed the outcome, and we really believed there was any chance that we could lose. But with the law, and the state of Connecticut law saying we had a certain standing, that made me, at least as a council person, believe that it was worth pursuing. I think the fact that in all the years, and I was there from the very beginning, in all the years, none of the members of the council objected to moving forward. We all believe we were following the law. But obviously, the judges interpreted it differently. I think those were the most important things that were changed.
Thank you. Do you know who Waterbury communicated the change in rates to in Watertown in 2018 and who would have acknowledged it?
To my knowledge, it was communicated to water and sewer, and they in turn communicated it to the town manager and to Attorney Jessup.
And how was town council notified?
We were only notified when something occurred. In other words, we were told that we were
they fail?
I don't think there were, at least I was not personally aware of any. There should have been, but we had never been in a situation of that nature before. So it was all new territory as to how to protect ourselves.
What communication was relayed and documented for the people who came into position from 2018 and on regarding this?
Well, I went on to council in 2009, so I was there for each step of the way. When there was a change, when it was town manager, when those other attorneys joined, it was it's my recollection that we would hold an executive meeting for any update on litigation. Anything that had occurred since the last time we had met. So that's the only way I know anyone would have been told anything. I don't believe there was anything in writing to a new town manager, for example, like when John Cavallis came on or something like that. I think he was probably just briefed either by Attorney Jessel or by the previous manager.
In the 2018-2019 budget year, do you recall what the communication was and who was involved in the conversation around following legal advice?
I'm not quite sure I understand that. The communication would have been to the council by those two attorneys that came to executive session
Do you recall? You go ahead.
and gave us their opinion on what was happening. I don't remember what date they came, but they gave us the update as the ones that were going to handle the lawsuit and actually represent us in court.
And are you aware of anything specifically in the 2018-2019 budget about the lawsuit?
Now, and we didn't do the budget question, but the way we handled the budget wouldn't have allowed us to do that because everything was decided by WSA. We got to talk about vehicles, equipment, or personnel, but everything else was already decided. The budget presentation, as it will be this year, will have already determined what projects they're going to do, how much it's going to cost, what streets are involved, what equipment they need. And so the money and the rates are already computed by them, and they tell us, well, we don't have any way to sit there and figure that out. So it's always just been accepted. And that's what my recollection was, that influenced this. That, they had set the rates and there wasn't anything we could do about it.
In 2013, there was a long-term contract that expired, and then a 5-year contract was signed. Do you know why the 5-year contract looks so different, and who signed it and authorized it?
My recollection is that we were told that the contract was different because Waterbury was being very difficult to deal with and to reach an agreement. They came to the consensus of the items that were in the actual contract. The chairman then, Ray Primini, was the one I think that had the more intricate
answered this, but I will ask it again. Who actually sets the rates? WSA, Finance, Town Council, and who has the final say?
It's WSA, and anybody that thinks it's anybody else obviously doesn't know what they're talking about. They haven't seen it in operation for all the years that we have been functioning since the Oakville Fire District was established. That's the way the charter set it up, and it gives the council some oversight, I believe is the word, but it doesn't give us the ability to change rates. So although we might want to, and we might recommend, it doesn't hold water. They don't have to listen to us. And they obviously in several cases have not.
Do you know what the current billing practice is to Watertown residents?
Well, outside of the fact that I get a bill, they've sectioned off, I guess, areas of town that get bills at different times. And, they read the meter and send you the bill on whatever rate they've established. No, I mean, they have had public hearings, which I think they're obligated to have, to approve the rates. But when you go to those, things are pretty much already decided. They know how much they need, they know what projects are coming up, and they've already figured out what it's gonna cost. So there isn't a lot of leeway in the discussion about the amount.
Okay. In 2023, do you know what went into the legal strategy to appeal and who was made aware of it and who decided it?
Well, obviously it was decided by the council. We are the ones that had to make the choice whether to appeal or not. That, if my recollection is, we discussed it in executive session with the attorneys. We came out of executive session and voted.
Do you know how, excuse me, how the legal strategy was decided that shifted us from an $18 million hold to a $34 million hold?
Well, I think that's just a length of time. We let it go too long. We didn't reach an agreement with them because they wouldn't negotiate with us. And WSA just never started paying the amount being billed, so it accumulated.
Do you know financially why a reserve was not created to offset the liability, excuse me, in 2023 or even before when it was disclosed as a liability in the audited financials?
I really don't. It was never discussed that I recall.
What is the relationship with the fire district, WSA, and the town, and what conversations were had regarding their involvement in the disputes?
The fire district and the town, that whole relationship goes back many years to when there was
handed me, because I'm the one near the mic. You said that people were following the law, and that's why we kept moving forward. Who gave you the interpretation of the law that was followed that wound up being wrong?
I think it first came at the very first meeting we had when we knew there was a lawsuit. And why, and when we asked why the amount of money hadn't been paid, why did WSA hold back money? To explain why that happened, my recollection is Attorney Jessel explained what WSA had, what conclusion they had reached, and how they reached it, and told us what the law was. Mr. Tulsi gave us a lot of, Attorney Tulsi gave us a lot of information about our standing and our legal interactions previously. And then the attorneys from Waterbury went into it even deeper, confirming what our standing was legally.
Who stated that town council could not override WSA and only give recommendations?
When I was chairman, I called Paul Jessel and asked him if we could override the rate that was set by WSA for that West 8 group of people. And Attorney Jessel told me that we could not.
Who oversees WSA if it's not the town council?
Nobody. Their board acts totally separate and brings to the council their budget, and we act on it, but we never act on the rating part of it or the financial part of it that influences their projects and repairs and those things, because we don't have the intricate knowledge of all of that and how much each of those will cost. They've estimated it, and they've always done a good job on how much it will cost to work that a pipe or put in new lines or whatever work they're going to do. And they know what the rates are gonna be, so that's never been a problem before.
Aside from the initial budget proposal, are there ever any budget hearings with WSA or budget review during the year?
Not that I'm aware of, or not that I recall.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Mary Ann, it's Dan Cochiola.
I can.
Hi. So the question I have listening to you is, in your opinion, how does an elected body like the council exert more influence and control over the process? I think if I'm hearing you right, a hole in our process is that,
In my mind,
yeah,
having been involved in the town's politics
yeah.
over 30 years, the only way you can do it is charter change.
So we have to open the charter and look at the town council exerting more authority
was an email hooked up to a bank account. So I reached out to him, and his response was, Michelle, the town attorney, Paul Jessel, should be able to assist you in answering all of these questions, as he was the lead in the Waterbury negotiations. With all due respect, I have been retired for over 6 years and am not interested in rehashing these issues. Best of luck. So, at this point, unless Rachel comes, I propose that we move on with the recommendations. Can I have a motion? Or further discussion?
Let's discuss.
Even better,
first.
let's
Yeah.
discuss.
I'm really grateful we had Mary Ann talk tonight. I think she reinforced some of the things that we've been thinking, or I've been thinking, but maybe hadn't been said. And I think there are some structural issues. It comes back to what one of the missions of this committee is actually, the legal relationship between WSA and the town. And I think that's something that we have to think about advising how to do. I also think the nature of that relationship clearly played a role in inertia. I feel like it was inertia created this movement happening, and it just didn't stop. Right? There were points where it was checked on, but from 2017, 2018, 20, 23, inertia continued, the snowball continued to get larger, and that's maybe that's a problem in and of itself, of that ability to step back and say, is this still in our best interest, right? I really appreciate some of the comments that we had a month ago from the public. Was a few people went on record as saying that there were mistakes made. And I think Mary Ann, as board chair, as a council chair, I'm sorry, clearly articulated that she sees that. So I'm grateful for her testimony tonight.
I think, so one of the things I think we have to try to help clarify, and Mary Ann hit on it, and I had done some work looking at the charter, because it is laid out in there, so there's the appendix A to the charter lays out the water and sewer authority in there, right? And there's a couple things in there. I mean, one, it's clear, in pretty plain language in the charter, it says the water and sewer authority is subordinate to the town council, right? So in pretty, and also that the town manager is the administrative head of the water and sewer authority. So it's hard to say that the town council doesn't have oversight over that. From a practical perspective, I think Mary Ann's correct in that the charter delegates the rate setting to the water and sewer authority to do that, but in the same breath is also saying that they're subordinate to the town council. So it doesn't look like there's a clean mechanism for the town council to sort of exercise that authority over the water and sewer authority, right? And I don't know if the answer to that is cleaning up the charter, making changes to that, or within the language that's in the charter, essentially coming up with the right practical procedures that the town council can exert that authority. Because I do have a hard time saying with the town council just kind of throwing their hands in the air and saying, well, the water and sewer authority did that, we couldn't do anything about it, because that wasn't the intent of the charter. It was not intended for the water and sewer authority to be its own autonomous agency.
I believe that in the Connecticut statutes, there's something as well about rate setting going to WSA, which you have to get some more clarification on, because I certainly am not an attorney.
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been that the process that's required for rate setting, right? You have to have public hearings, there's laws in terms of what you're allowed to set for the rate, and to do that. That authority, though, can be delegated to a town council, you know, beyond the water and sewer authority. But again, some of it comes down to the details of the charter and.
I have the charter right here.
Yeah.
So it says, section 3, principal administrative officer shall be the town manager of the town as appointed by town council. Section 3.2 of powers and duties. It says, let's see. Said water and sewer authority is in no way to be construed as an autonomous authority, but shall be a subordinate body of the town council.
So what's interesting is that legal advice that our town has received, that we heard in testimony throughout this process, reads differently than how I heard that statement.
I may disagree with that,
Yeah.
but also with the rate setting, I mean, you know, we asked the question, is there ever any review of budget or really any hearings, budget hearings, anything like that? And the answer was no. So for the town council to get involved, I think it's more of the town council is just taking a backseat position when you have the authority. Obviously, there's mechanisms that probably have to be in place, but it doesn't sound like the town council has really wanted to kind of approach that. And it's, I think inadvertently giving autonomy to the WSA, even though it's supposed to be overseen.
Could very well be, and I think that's part of our charge, is to try and straighten out that relationship, and whether it's through charter revision or an ordinance or what have you, I agree, I think there needs to be more accountability.
And I don't know if we have to solve it on this committee,
Hmm.
but we certainly have to make a recommendation to the council
Exactly.
that we've identified X, and we recommend that the council visit Y as related to that, right? And so this is where we are with that. Yeah.
There's enough confusion on something that shouldn't be confusing.
Right.
That it needs to get resolved, right? Yeah.
Well, if you have the attorneys saying, no, we're not allowed to do this, but the charter says it is. Attorneys saying, go ahead, yeah, we're gonna win this, but we lose clearly. I mean, there's some duties there that aren't kind of lining up.
So,
What are the other two charges?
yeah, I was going to read them because I neglected to do that in the beginning, which, that's what happens when you give me 2 weeks off. We are charged, 1, to recommend safeguards that will help prevent situations from arising in the future. 2, to recommend policies and or procedures to ensure the public remains informed. And 3, to examine the business relationship between the town council and the WSA and recommend any appropriate changes.
So we talked through the idea of safeguards and identify if we believe that we've collected enough information to make recommendations in respect to safeguards.
Sure.
Is that a reasonable question for us to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, what have we discussed? We've talked about, well, I'll leave this up to you guys, and I'll open this up to you first. In terms of safeguards.
I mean, I think we've heard from every testimony a real consistency of a lack of safeguards within the process, a lack of structured safeguards. And not only are they not being followed, but they're lack of existence. So I do think when we talk about the idea of multi-year, multi-million dollar potential liabilities to the town, there has to be some place where we stop and look at it and identify, what is the legal advice, what is in the best interest of the town, where's the documentation that we're moving forward, and do we recheck on this? Is this still in our best interest as we move forward? Because we didn't have documentation within the safeguard
Right.
process, right?
So some sort of litigation risk management policy.
Yes, that's a great way to frame it.
We also talked about an overall risk management process for specifically for WSA. You know, it's actually a good practice for the entire town, but I think specifically for WSA, there should be a risk management process.
I'm surprised the insurance company doesn't require it.
And one of you also brought up, doing a look ahead, so not that you can necessarily stick to a 5-year budget,
Right.
but at least have some forecasting ability
Correct.
for budgets going
Yeah.
forward.
That really plays into safeguards.
Hmm.
Yes.
It plays into safeguards, and it also gives you the ability that if you know you have large financial obligations coming down the pike, you can start thinking about your rate or your revenue increases years before you need them, right? So you're avoiding suddenly having to spike rates to solve a problem, which is, which you're always trying to avoid. And I think the other big one we hit on, kind of tonight, we talked about is sort of just this kind of, whether we call it charter review or some sort of recommendation that work needs to be done to kind of define the working relationship between WSA and the town and how that complies with the charter and whether charter changes are needed.
Yeah, I think we should be able to get a legal review, legal opinion as far as what are our options.
Yeah, right, because the charter clearly says town council, that the WSA is subordinate to the town council, but what's not, crystal clear to me is how does the town council actually exert that authority
Exactly,
to
yeah.
do that?
I think somewhere, in the litigation risk management policy, if it hits a certain figure, a certain number, a certain length of time, we also need to ensure that our public, our citizens know what's going on, which I would assume it can tie into several of these, charges of ours.
Yeah, and I think, boy, you're hitting it on the head there. A safeguard is, informing the public.
Right,
Because,
exactly.
boy, they're gonna keep us honest.
Well, it's their money.
Right.
Now, whether that's done through a newsletter or online is great, but online doesn't, well, does online hit everyone? I don't know. Yeah, yeah. What else do we have? What else makes sense to put in this? I know we had, talked about executive sessions as well, and giving as much information as possible, without breaking the confidentiality rules of executive session, if there are rules.
Do we want to recommend to the council of adopting best practice of executive session as one of our community members shared with us.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Great.
That is what I have in my notes.
Great.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And then,
So I mean, what I ended up with, this is essentially 6 items that we've kind of consolidated things to. You know, formal risk management process, what I've labeled multi-year financial planning, a litigation review of risk management policy, charter / WSA town council relationship, public communication improvements, and executive session policies and procedures.
Now we just need to put some flesh around them.
yeah, and what's the last charge? I'm sorry.
To examine the business relationship between the town council and the WSA and recommend any appropriate changes.
Right, so that then maybe is extracted as separate, right, from those 5?
Yeah, or it could be kind of part of that charter. I'm calling it, charter may be a misnomer, right? It really is. It really is, I think, trying to put out, I think it is trying to come to, well, I think we've got a couple choices. One, we can punt a bit on it and say, hey, this is something the town council needs to work on. You know, or we can provide a recommendation and then, you know, push it to the council to say, what's the right way to implement it? You know, does it require charter revision? Does it require an ordinance? Does it?
And I
mean, because I guess where I come from on that, right, is I think of the water and sewer. So when I think of good governance in general, right, you can't expect a town council to know everything and that the folks who know it. So it's very common that you have subcommittees that, you know, a smaller group of people become experts or as close to they can in that particular issue, and then the rest of the council relies on them for guidance and to help make decisions and to do that. In a lot of ways, that is what is expected of the Water and Sewer Authority members. You're asking them to be experts in terms of the operation of the Water and Sewer Authority, and you know, to Mary Ann's comments, you are sort of accepting what they say because they likely know more than you do about the operations of it. But in a traditional, if it was a subcommittee of the town council, it would be clear that the council as a body, as a whole, would have complete oversight over that. So I don't think we want to diminish the ability of the WSA to solve problems and to figure out the nitty-gritty of pieces, but I think we certainly don't want a council president to feel like they have no say, which is what's evolved, right?
Right.
And not within our charge, but does looking at the relationship in respect to the fire district also something that we advise the council to look at as well? Because is there disequity amongst ratepayers in town if you live in one neighborhood versus the other? And are you getting equitable services? Or is that something we leave alone?
I mean, the fire district is a wholly separate legal entity
It is.
of which the town has no oversight over.
Okay.
So, in its nature, you're